I can help out with anything specific that you guys are doing. This is a way that I love to be able to give back and to help. And if anyone watching the stream online has any questions, just, I don't know if there's a chat.
We have a chat. Send them in the chat. We can answer your questions live right here. So tell us a little bit more about you and how you got started in hip hop, how you formed Royal Air Entertainment.
I started when I was a kid. Are you guys familiar with the group Crisscross?
Yeah. Make you want to jump, you know?
I was in like kindergarten when that came out. And that was my favorite record. Crisscross was famous for wearing their clothes backwards. So I would ask to go to the bathroom and I would turn my clothes around backwards and come back. And one day, like 5 or 6 other kids did it. And the teacher would take away my bathroom privileges. I never told anyone why I did it. I just did it. I knew why I did it, but nobody else knew. So they were just doing it. And the teacher just thought we were a bunch of little weirdos just turning our clothes around backwards.
Like, what's wrong with these guys?
Yeah. And whenever I was a kid, there were a couple like kid groups that inspired me. And looking back on it now, I realize how important representation is. It didn't matter if they were the same race or from the same city. It just, these are kids that are my age and they're on TV and they're rapping and they're performing. And just something resonated, like it just hit me. I started writing songs when I was 11. I didn't sell my first CD. I put my first album out in high school. It was my senior year. I've been writing and recording myself this whole time. And I didn't have money to go to studios or anything, so I bought a $20 microphone from Audio Technica at Radio Shack, if they're even around anymore.
Nope.
And I'm gonna be dating myself this entire time. So if I mention a store or a person and you have no idea what they are and you don't want to be rude and like Google it, just raise your hand and I'll tell you. I was like a real live Wikipedia for you. And a friend of mine, senior year, he was a year below me. He's like, yeah, man, I'm putting my CD out tomorrow. Like however many songs, selling it for $3. Oh, that's cool, man. Congrats. Like, save me one. I'll buy it from you. I'm sitting like, man, why don't I have a CD out? Like, I've been recording and releasing songs, but I was just doing it because it was fun. I enjoyed writing. I enjoyed making songs. People in the school knew I did it, but at that point, it was just a hobby, and my mindset hadn't like shifted yet. Like, man, I'll make an intro and an outro tonight, and I'll burn 7 copies of CDs, and I'll bring them to school tomorrow, and I'll sell them for $2 because it's cheaper than my friends, and everyone will buy mine instead. And I posted about it on my Zanga. So before you raise your hand, I'm going to tell you what that was.
I was going to say, what the hell is it?
That was what blogging was before blogging. Like LiveJournal was another big one, and it was just online diaries. So it didn't have, like, you couldn't really customize the way you can a blog now, but it was just an online diary, and that's kind of how everything started. So I posted, you know, I'm putting out a CD tomorrow. I figured I'll sell 2 or 3, maybe. And I sold all 7 of them at lunch. I said, okay, cool. So I went home and I burned 20, 7 a day. This should last me the rest of the week. I sold all 20 at lunch. I went home, got 20 more, sold all 20. Every day I would sell out of CDs at lunch. So I sold like over 200 just during lunch.
At $2 a while.
At $2, yep.
That's $400. Just for everybody, quick math. $2 a while, 200, that's $400.
Yeah, and that's when everything changed. That's when you could argue that I was still amateur level, but you could also argue it was professional now that I'd actually been compensated for what I was doing. So I started breaking it down. Okay, a spindle of CDs costs how much? I can get those slim CD cases. I can get 15 of those, or I can get, for $15, I can get a 100-pack. So that breaks down to 15 cents each. I think the CDs themselves broke down to like 35 cents each. Okay, so how much am I spending? If I sell it for $2, what is my profit? And that's where it started. And I went off to school. I went to school in St. Louis. Per. Yeah, I went to
just put it out there, $1.50 per.
I went to college in St. Louis.
Where'd you go?
Webster University.
Shouts out Webster University.
Yeah, Webster was great. And I had to be creative because I didn't have 12 years worth of friendships that were going to buy my CDs. It was easy for me to talk to people, but what am I going to do if people don't know me well enough? Am I going to like learn sales things? Like, so what I did, I had early access to a lot of these, I don't want to say bootleg websites, but
things the bootleg sites out here.
So I would tell people, hey man, if you buy this CD for $2, I'll give you for free this CD of Kanye West freestyles that nobody else had yet. So like, what can I give out? So that was free. So I wasn't really infringing on copyright because I was giving it away, but I was able to find like freestyles and just like mixtapes. And some places, some of it was mixtapes that people could have downloaded for free, but they didn't know where to search yet. There weren't any DatPiff or Spinrilla or My Mixtapes. Like those platforms didn't exist yet. But somehow I found them and I had access to all these things. So I was able to, I wanted to have some sort of incentive to help me before I was able to stand on my own. And I was always the guy volunteering to help. When I was a freshman in high school, there was a local label in Youngstown, Ohio, called Self-Made Records.
That's like football country, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I sold their CDs for $10 and they gave me $2 a CD. And there was a record label from New York. I got a message, it was on a message board and they said something like, you know, just give us your address and we'll send you a CD for free. And I emailed them and like, hey, let me know how I could help. I just wanted to help and be a part of it. I didn't have any specific goal in mind. I just wanted to help. And it turned into me running their MySpace page.
Oh, wow.
And they had this spam like friend adder that I ran that would just like mass message people and send out friend requests and you know, like the OG bots for social media. But it was me programming it. And then that turned into me running the company email address. I've to this day never met this guy. And he let an 18-year-old kid from Ohio, and he lived in Brooklyn, still never met. And he gave me, I could have been doing horrible things. I could have ruined his whole business. And he trusted me and gave me a chance. And where things really, and it was cool. He had this great label, but they were developing other platforms. He was starting a magazine and people were submitting stuff. So I have all these CDs and stuff because he just had people send it to me. So Tommy Hilfiger's son, Rich Hilfiger, sent me a CD. Like I've got it in my house still, like from early 2000s, a Rich Hilfiger CD.
Crazy.
And he was starting a magazine and asked me to transcribe it. I'd never done transcription before, but all I'm doing is listening to an interview and I just type out what I hear. Like pretty good writer, like grammar, spelling, all that stuff. Like, cool, yeah, I'll do it. And I did an hour-long interview with this guy. And later that summer, between freshman and sophomore year, I was on MySpace, and MySpace had this dope feature called bulletins. And it was just anyone can post something. It was like a bulletin board, just digital version. And he just said, I needed help. So, okay, I wasn't working at the time in the summer. DJ Vlad was a big DJ. He hadn't started Vlad TV yet, but he was a really big mixtape DJ.
Crazy big.
DJ, like
I know that's a little before some of y'all, but Vlad was a huge mixtape.
Massive. And he said he was working on a documentary and he needed help with transcription. Like, shoot, I don't know how to do that. I just did it. He sent me a bunch of interviews, and that's how I got my first IMDb credits for a documentary called Ghost Ride the Whip, which was all about the hyphy movement and the hip hop scene in the Bay Area. Mac Dre, MC Hammer,
Sneak the Key.
Like
Keep
all
the
of
Sneak,
these, Keep the Sneak, man, Be Legit, so all of these legendary artists from there. And that's how I got like my start. It was me volunteering to do things. It didn't matter if I had experience. Most people were willing to teach me how to do something. So I would always volunteer. Local music conferences. Hey man, need me to help pass out flyers, and I'll come early and set up chairs, and I got in for free. So I got a chance to meet people and learn and just soak up game, and all for coming an hour early and setting up folding chairs. It's, you know, it wasn't hard, but I didn't necessarily do it with an end goal in mind. I just wanted to help. I just wanted to learn more, And, you know, being in the Midwest, very similar to experiences in independent music in the South and the West Coast, because early on, we didn't have record labels. Like the major labels didn't have offices there. Atlanta was not the hub for music and entertainment that it is now. It was not. Everything was New York. So people in the Midwest and other parts of the country, you had to figure it out on your own. You couldn't just walk down to Def Jam offices. You had to figure it out. You had to press up your own CDs and sell it and go to the mom and pop stores and book your own tours, all this stuff on your own. And so that kind of built this hustler mentality that I think a lot of independent artists, and there have been so many who've built it into something great, was because of this. Because this was being passed down, this hustle, these independent like powerhouse labels. There was an artist, South Park Mexican, I was a huge fan of his. Huge. He sold 400,000 CDs just out the trunk in Houston.
400,000 CDs out your trunk, yeah. And you get to keep all that money. Think about that. If you pay for the CDs, if you pay for the labels, if you pay for the press up, you keep all of that. So 400,000 times, we'll say $7 a piece, $8 a piece.
He was doing it for like 10, so that's $4 million.
Come on, man.
So, it was a lot of that, me volunteering, and I've always been very resourceful. So that's a skill that I'm very blessed and glad to have. But just getting out and trying things and learning everything the hard way. I learned everything the hard way. So I always try to share these stories so people understand and don't make some of the mistakes I did, but that they do also follow and have some of the successes that I did too. So I've booked my own tours as an artist. I've toured in Japan, Thailand, the Philippines. I was a tour manager for Iron Solomon, my favorite battle rapper. I was doing marketing for him. And he said, hey man, I'm going on tour. I need someone to manage, and I trust you and I like the work you've been doing. And he took care of me. He's like, man, I'll fly you out. I'll pay for the hotel and your food. I said, shit, all right, yeah, I'll do it.
Let's do it.
And it was a great experience. The tour dates were already booked. All of them were booked. So I didn't have to do the booking thing, but everything else I did. So I had to research how far is the hotel from the venue, from the city to the next city, how far is that? Are we driving? Are we flying? Most of the time we just had a rental car and just drove up. We started in Reno, Nevada, flew over to San Francisco, then we flew up to Seattle. We were in Seattle, Vancouver, Whistler in British Columbia, and Portland, Oregon before going back down to LA. But that's one of my favorite things because I got to be creative about it. So there are two types of people when it comes to your fans. There are the fans who actively look for music. Those are the people who are going to go on blogs. They're going to go and join playlists to find the newest music. They love hearing something new and being ahead of it.
Those are usually your DJs, your bloggers, your tastemakers. Those are usually people, and sometimes the industry puts those people out there to help find you guys.
Yep.
So they do exist on a paid scale, but for real, those fans are usually, like I said, DJs, tastemakers, those types of fans. Your average fan doesn't do that. Those are like...
Nope. No, that's the second type. The second type hears the songs. So when you're trying to market to those people, though there are those two different ways you have to do it. You look for the people, those are the tastemakers he was talking about, who will help break the record, but then you have these other people who may love what you do, but they're not searching for it. And it's not personal. Some don't know, some what's on the radio is where music comes from. They don't even know that there are other places to find it. So to reach these people, you have to be where they are in their everyday life.
Talk about it.
So someone like me, if you're trying to reach and think about who it is you're trying to reach, what age. You have to do some work and some research. How old are you? Are the fans you're trying to reach? What things do they like? Like when I do consultations, man, we break it all the way down.
These are called demographics. When you get into a label meeting, these are called demographics. And they're going to ask you, who is your demographic? who is it that you think you're gonna sell to, and why do you think you're gonna sell to them?
And man, when I tell you that we go in depth, we'll take over an hour to really break it down. Not just, I don't want an answer of, man, I don't know, college age, 18 to 34 maybe is my demographic, fans of hip hop. That's not enough for me. Are they Apple or Android? What kind of car do they drive? Do they drive a car? What kind of job do they have? Did they go to college? Did they graduate high school? What kind of job? What kind of income do they have? What foods do they like? Do they drink alcohol? Do they smoke weed? What foods do they eat? What stores do they shop at? Like, when we're finished, I want you to be able to picture an actual person. I want you to have this list, and like, I did that with a guy, and he's like, damn, like, this sounds like my friend. And he's like,
we call this a buyer persona. I know, I'm sorry guys, I'm gonna keep dropping. I just got my little certification, so I'm gonna drop mine. We call it a buyer persona, and literally you build this ideal customer, and then you find out how they take in information, and you put yourself in those positions.
Yep.
That's literally how you sell things.
Yep. And it helps if I tell them to come up with a name for this person. So when you're accepting shows, when you're if someone says, hey man, I'll put you on this website for this much, or whatever the deal is, if my avatar is named Aaron, let's say I'll call him Aaron, like that's that avatar, that is the like personification of my fan. Every detail, that's my ideal fan. And someone, hey man, I want you to perform at this show. Would Aaron be at that show? If he wouldn't go to that show, doesn't make sense for you to take that booking. Like, if you're trying to get an Aaron fan and that checks all the boxes for a fan that you want, and they offer you this show, if Aaron's not going to come to that show, don't take it. If you're trying to reach high school or college women and you want to take a show in the shittiest part of town, and you don't go on till midnight or 1 a.m, do you really expect her and her friends to come up and feel safe going to that show? If they wouldn't, then don't do it. Or you need to change what your target market is. If that's really your target, you have to make sure that your fans are going to be comfortable there. Can you get your music in a barbershop? How do you get your songs playing over the speakers at a salon? Can you curate a playlist for a salon if that's your target, and throw a couple of your songs in there and say, hey, like, I know you got a Spotify, or, you know, they wouldn't have Spotify, like, legally, like, you need a different license to play music at a business.
There's a service for that, but just for y'all.
Yeah, so just, but, you know, I'm sure there are people who play whatever, but, you know, so understanding, like, I want you to really understand how many recording artists are in there tonight.
If you record songs, make some noise, man. We can hear y'all. Make some noise.
Yeah.
So it's a room full of people who create music. Listen, dropping gems on you.
Yeah. Are there any people who want to be like behind the scenes, or managers, or labels, or anything else? Okay. Good. So now that you know this person, this, you know, target fan base, and you can have more than one, and it's good if you do. It's great if you do. You know, I'll just touch on this real quick. The one artist I was helping, one fan, the male persona and the female were very different, because he had his music, he was a rapper, a little bit of a hippie style, which catered more to this a female persona, or, you know, avatar. Like, that was the ideal fan for her. Like, she did yoga, like, we had this whole thing built out. But the guy version was a little more like kind of urban preppy, might even fit in with like a Lupe Fiasco, or like original, like older Kanye stuff. So that really helped, even when he was doing advertising. You know, if you're doing Facebook ads or something, instead of just targeting a similar artist, now you have different products, different like locations. You know, if you're targeting people who live in the inner big city, Are these people driving to work? Are these people going to take public transportation? If they take public transportation, then maybe having stickers or investing in, posters or stuff along the buses makes sense for you if that's who you're targeting. And a lot of this all comes down to how you protect yourself at the end of the day. And are there other ways to monetize it? And there's so many, and it's always changing with technology.
You beat me to it. I was going to ask you. So, and this doesn't just go for musicians, it's all creatives. I mean, people who make visual art. What's the new thing? NFTs? People who are creating NFTs and just intellectual property on the whole. A lot of what he's going to say is going to matter. Your trademark matters, your copyright matters, your ownership is the number one thing in intellectual property is ownership. Because if you don't own it, somebody else can pay to own it, and now they're getting paid off of your intellect, and you don't want that.
So here's a real world example of that. A friend of mine who I got to sponsor the Iron Solomon tour, so I had 2 product sponsorships. One guy, I used to work with 100 Racks energy drinks, so they came and gave us a couple cases. Another guy had a clothing company called Planet of the Grapes, and they laced us with a bunch of gear. And I ended up picking up another one on the road. We were in Vancouver just getting lunch, and I saw a guy loading energy drinks out of his van into this corner store. And we were in the middle of lunch. I said, I'll be right back. And I ran out there and talked to the guy, and he ended up giving us a bunch of free drinks for the rest of and it kept me awake because I didn't get to sleep when I was driving all over. But the Planet of the Grapes guy was big in the Bay. A lot of people knew their brands. Really cool guy. Just real cool. People always took care of me, always hooked us up. Then the Planet of the Apes movies came out, and Walmart put out a t-shirt that said Planet of the Grapes on it. Oh. They're like, ooh, payday. They didn't own that name. They never trademarked it. So them saying, oh, but we've been in business for this long, good luck winning that when you have lawyers backed by the Walton family. Yeah. Good luck. Good luck lasting long enough in court with someone who has that kind of money. They have enough money to keep you in court until your money runs out. So it doesn't matter.
Or you die, one of the two.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter. They lost out.
So talk to us about how to make sure to protect our intellectual property so that this doesn't happen.
And I'll tell you one more real example, and that'll help explain that.
Sure.
There was a hit record in Akron, in the area I grew up, a group called VEC, and the nickname for Akron is AK Rowdy. And this song was big, early 2000s, mostly in the Akron area, but it was about Akron. The University of Akron student section was named the AK Rowdies. And my guy Dame, who ended up kind of mentoring me a little bit later high school, early college, was telling me this story. And he had his brother trademark it right before they went and named their student section that. So they saw the student section's name, the AK Rowdies, they're selling t-shirts, merchandise. Oh man, payday. His brother never did it.
Wow.
He told him that he did, but he never did. And it's the same situation. It's too late, man. Good luck trying to trademark that now, because it's very likely they already did. Hey, they'll do a search. Nobody has this name. Cool, we'll take it. That's it. They could have done well. They could have worked out so many deals and it's not necessarily money up front. They could have, hey, if you want to use our name, we want $1 million. They could have tried that. And the university could have said, okay, and just changed the name of the student section. That's what I would have done, honestly. If someone came to me and tried to do that, I would just change the name, unless I was really set on doing it. But they could have negotiated something we'll let you keep that, give us a percentage of any merchandise you sell, and let us create the theme song for University of Akron sports. Let us come up with the song that the team comes out to. Let us perform it at a homecoming or something like that. They really could have blown up. They could have made a lot of money on the back end and kept the career going, but soon after that, they broke up and moved to different parts of the country. So, protecting the name, you can trademark it federally, which covers you throughout the whole country. You could trademark it in just the state of Illinois, and it's a lot cheaper. But understand that you're just protected in the state of Illinois. So I could do the same thing in Ohio, or I could have the business with the same name in Indiana or anywhere else. And there are different categories too. So if I trademark the name Essence in, as an artist or performer or whatever public figure, I can't stop someone from spelling it the same way and opening a boutique or a restaurant, because that's a different category. But this is something that I can help, or an intellectual property attorney, patent and trademark attorney can help you with. There are resources online, but these are things I'm definitely happy to help guide you toward. And protecting the music. And there are so many different ways to monetize your music. Of course, there's sales. You can sell you can sell downloads, you can sell physical CDs, you can get money from streams, the mechanical royalties that you're paid from the sale, and that goes to the performer. But there are other performing rights royalties for when the song is performed. That's the ASCAPs, BMI, CSAC.
Sound Exchange.
Sound Exchange is great. They are free. Sound Exchange just does internet and satellite radio. And
don't they do video games too? Or is that somebody?
that's something else.
Okay.
So that would be like ASCAP and BMI doing that. But there are other ones too. Like there are more than just those two. So there are a lot of organizations that you have to be with if you really want to collect everything. And that's where it might help to sign with a publisher. And it's always up to you. You can do everything yourself, do it all in-house with your team. Hopefully not just you, because you'll be exhausted and you won't get enough done. You could do it all in-house, keep 100%, or you can give 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever percentage away for someone else to manage it and monitor it. I'm more of a fan of that. That's just my personal preference. I know people that are like, no, I want 100%. I want everything.
It allows you to stay creative though.
Yeah.
And if your mind isn't saddled with dotting every I, across every T, you can remain creative and agile in your career movement.
Yeah. Absolutely. But I feel like if someone's going to do work and help collect money that I didn't even know existed, I don't mind you getting a percentage of it. You're helping me out. There are artists I've been working with and helping that had a lot of unclaimed money they had no idea about. One was from estimates, 6 figures. Another artist, old school, was in a funk band. It's got a song that's got about $30,000 unclaimed. Another old school rapper I did some searches for. He had a hit record that has about $40,000 sitting out there unclaimed.
40 minutes. Can any of y'all use $30,000, $40,000 for your creative work? Yeah.
So, there's, you get paid from the streams as the artist. If I perform the song, doesn't matter if I wrote it or not. If I'm the rapper signed to Uncanny's record label and people buy and stream my music, I will get paid. But there are additional revenue streams for whoever wrote the song or owns the rights to the song. So if that's someone, you hear about people buying or owning your masters or something, but whoever wrote the song, there are multiple streams from that. So from Spotify, we get paid multiple times from the same stream. From the Harry Fox agency's one, Music Reports is another.
Write this down.
MLC is another one, and that was just started by the copyright department, United States Copyright Department, to go out and collect some of this money. It was like black box royalties. So this whole time, these stores and outlets, Amazon, YouTube, Google, Apple Music, they've had money collected, but there wasn't really a way, or maybe there was and most people just didn't know about it and they weren't fighting to let people know about it, that the songwriters, like they just took this money that was supposed to go to the songwriters and it's just been sitting there. And if you don't claim this money within 3 years, it just goes into a pot and they pay out per, percentage wise to whoever's affiliated and registered. So if you have a hit song and you get a lot of streams and you get your money from DistroKid or TuneCore or label if you're signed to somebody, but there's additional money that's sitting out there for you too, for whoever wrote the song, whoever made the beat. There's additional money sitting out there for you for that.
Make sure y'all sign your paperwork, man.
So the easiest way, again, you can sign. A lot of these agencies are free, but it's a lot of work because they all have spreadsheets you have to fill out or enter your name, the release date, all this stuff. Or that's where Song Trust comes in. Song Trust does that. They take a 15% fee. It's a one-time fee of $100. And they collect through a lot of different agencies all over the world. It's like 160 different agencies. So if your songs are playing on the radio in Italy or other places, the neighboring rights, they'll collect that too. So, again, this is a lot of information. I don't expect everyone to just retain all of these little details. So afterwards, please make sure you get in touch with Uncanny and I'll get the information to you. I'll send you the links. I'll put everything together. So it's real easy to find. So that's monetizing way number one. Well, number two. Number one is sales. Number two is from whoever owns the master's rights to songs. And there's so many other ways to earn revenue off of what you do, but you have to be a little creative sometimes with it, and you have to be able to step away and look at yourself differently. It's not just I'm a singer, I'm a recording artist, so I make money from my records. That's part of it. You can get paid from live performances. And even when you perform live, if you have a concert, that's a performance. So ASCAP and BMI, the performing rights societies, will collect on that. So you can earn revenue as the songwriter while you're getting paid doing your shows. Just a little thing. But sell merchandise.
Who here has their own merchandise already?
Good.
Okay.
So there's merchandise. Then you have, you can teach. If any of you play instruments, you can teach people. I actually, when I studied abroad in Thailand and I performed at our school talent show, and a lot of the foreign teachers came up to me afterwards and they asked to hire me to teach their children how to rap.
Wow.
So they bust me out to like they have this independent school. It was just in this house where they kind of homeschooled the kids of the teachers who were there internationally. And I spent the morning teaching them how to write a rap. I taught them, we played games, like rhyming games. So
Check, please.
Yeah, these are very young kids, like first grade, kindergarten to maybe third grade. So we just started playing rhyming games, right? What rhymes with chair? And we'd have them each go around until they ran out of words. And started from that. And we had them write a verse. We wrote it on the whiteboard and they all practiced it. And then we had them rap it for the teachers. And then they fed me and paid me and sent me home. That was amazing. It was one of my favorite experiences. So is there someone you can teach to do something? An instrument you play, maybe you record yourself and you're really good at it. Can you mentor or teach lessons to someone how to, the basics of recording engineering? You have ways to do custom songs. If you're a singer, can you sing personalized happy birthdays for somebody and send them an MP3? Can you record the outgoing voicemail on somebody's phone? I'm not here right now, leave a message after the beep, but could you, people will pay for that, the customization and all that.
What's that website, Cameo? What is it, Cameo?
Yeah,
Celebrities?
Cameo.
Y'all can do stuff like that. People are fans of you already. People will pay you for these things. I know it sounds absurd, but literally, if you can think of it, you can get paid to do it. People will pay you to do stuff.
Yeah, Too Short, rapper Too Short, got famous for that in the Bay back in the 80s. He had all these people, a lot of them were drug dealers, they'd pay him and he would write a verse and like shout them out and talk about their life in the verse. So imagine that, man. You're on a date and you pop a tape in of like the hottest rapper in the area, and like he starts rapping about you. Like
you get laid that night. That's for damn sure.
Or yeah.
No, we totally
it'll be impressive. Custom songs, and that's not just for friends and just casual people. Can you write a jingle for a business? Like you can. That was rhetorical. Like you can do it. You can write a song. You have the music. Why can't you do a jingle for a local pizza place or a local car company? And if you do that, when you do that, why can't you be in the commercial? That's rhetorical. You can. You should be in the commercial.
How many jingles stuck in your head right now? I know y'all listen to the radio at work or in the car. And the Jiffy Stop joint, the O'Reilly, right? Y'all all thinking that like stupid shit. Somebody got a check for that, a dummy check for that.
Yeah. And these are great things for your resume. You can perform at company outings, sometimes companies and corporate meetings. When I was in Thailand, I had this amazing apartment on the beach. It was so sweet. I was really fortunate. I had this apartment on the beach when I was 21, living in Thailand. And we were just sitting I had a balcony view on the ocean, the mountains behind me. Damn, I want to go back. And we just heard music. We heard like reggae music. And this girl and I were like, yo, what is that? And we could see that a big hotel, a couple properties down, a whole bunch of lights and things like that. And we're like, yo, we're going to go. And we walked like beachside and came up, and there was like a Thai reggae band that was just chilling outside. And there were a bunch of people from India there. So Microsoft had a big convention, and they'd flown all of these employees out, and this was like their end of week party or mixer. So we absolutely crashed it.
Oh, for sure.
But they had one of the best DJs from India who was there, who was spinning. And I'm sure that paid a lot better than the club dates he could have got. Doing a Microsoft corporate gig, like 5-star. I ate so well that night. And they looked at us weird, but they didn't kick us out because we were hanging out with the band. But like they didn't like it, but they didn't do anything about it. But that was a non-traditional gig. If you're thinking DJs, like clubs, house parties. How many people think corporate gigs? Yeah, weddings, like corporate gigs.
My first one was actually at the job I'm at now 2 years ago. It's so funny. My buddy is the finance manager now. Shout out Zach. He was the GM over at one of the stores. He called me. He was like, hey, we're going to do an outside event. We need a DJ. Babe, you were there. We went and sat for 2-3 hours outside of Landmark, and I got the DJ. Alexa, you came. We had a good time at the Landmark. I didn't get a whole bunch of money, but the exposure was something different. So, yeah, anytime y'all can volunteer. Anytime there's something going on, make sure y'all get it going on. One thing a lot of these artists want to do is tour. Talk to them about how to put together a tour.
I love touring. I love putting it together, routing everything. So I'm going to tell you one real life experience of terrible tour routing, and I'm going to tell you experiences of great tour routing or good. I don't want to hype myself up, but I had a friend in California. I was living in North Hollywood. And he was telling me the tour they were going, and he sent me the poster and tour dates, everything looked cool. And I noticed that they had a gig in Portland, and the next night they were in Youngstown, Ohio. And looked at it for a while. I was like, is that a typo? And I'm like, nah, how are you getting to Youngstown? Like, they don't have an airport. It's like over an hour to Cleveland, which is the next closest one, or maybe like an hour from Pittsburgh. There's nothing else. He's going, no, they have one. But it was one of those really tiny regional ones. So they had to go from Portland to Florida just to catch a flight to Youngstown. Man, by the time you do all that, the show's going to be over. Like with the 3-hour time change and layovers, and then catching another flight here, and then getting to you just taking the first date. Like, hey, whoever has a date open, we'll take it. Did you not think of it didn't look weird when you wrote it down and you're like, did you even look at it after you wrote it down? Some of these were like 6 hours away, and then the next, like 2 days later, they'd be back an hour away from the first place. So, man, you couldn't just, it didn't make any sense. I don't even know if the tour ever happened. I still talk to the guy, he's better at it. I don't even know if that ever happened. So the tour that we did with Iron Solomon, again, that was great. Those dates were already booked, but I used those same principles when I booked the first time that I booked a full 10-city tour. You know, I looked at the distances. Most things were a few hours away. I wouldn't do things in the same city or something real close twice in a row, unless it hits a different crowd. Like if you have a chance to open for someone really big and then the next night or the night before there's like an independent show, I would do that, absolutely, because it's probably going to target different people and you can use one show to promote the other. But you know, when we're routing things, I always like to look for other things in the area. I look for boutiques, I look for record stores. Where is it? And this goes back to the earlier thing of knowing your fans. Where are people going to be that like our style of music? So Iron Solomon, battle rapper, but a dope writer, a really talented artist, producer, plays guitar. He was awesome. And we were touring with another group who was the headliner. So I looked up all of these places in between in each city, and we would go to boutiques, and a lot of people just gave us free clothes because they recognized it. Like, hey man, we'll wear your hat on stage or wear your hoodie or your sweatshirt or whatever. People gave us a lot of free stuff. Some people gave us discounts. Some people they didn't. And like, we're not going to force it, especially if they weren't familiar with us. But we knew some people were fans, and the boutiques, the clothing stores are the hubs. The people that run that, they knew everybody. Yo, have you talked to this person yet? Nah, I haven't. Yo, he's the biggest rapper in the city. Do you have his information? Here's his number. Yo, are you going to be on this dude's show? No, I've heard the name. Let me connect you. That's my cousin. Like, those things actually happen. I was able to book us on the biggest hip hop station in the Bay Area, KMEL, on with Big Von, who's one of the, OG, like amazing DJ, club, radio. Like, this guy's awesome. Showed us a lot of love. But I booked college interviews, blogs. I called magazines, newspapers. I hit up everybody. Man, I got Macklemore came out to one of the shows.
Macklemore came to rock with y'all.
Yeah, I tweeted him and I said, hey man, I'm in the city with Iron Solomon. If you're free tonight, come out. And he hit me back and he said, okay. And like he did, like it was right when, his hit single, Thrift Shop Store.
Yeah, y'all know that joint, right? Couple dollars in my pocket, that joint.
Yeah, and he came out.
What come up? This shit's
and it was so crazy. He was standing in front of the DJ booth, and it was just him in this big like black fur coat, and they had him like roped off, like a triangle roped off, like just him, like he was an exhibit or like a wax figure. But he was super cool, and that came from like doing the research, like, yo, who's in this city? Who do we need to talk to? We did college interview at like 11 at night in Vancouver. They introduced us to other artists, like. So those are things that I have in mind when I'm doing routing. Like, where do you want to start? Do you want to start or end in your hometown? And I think it's important to consider there are benefits to both. You could say, hey, it'd be great to have a good send-off show. But if the crowd isn't what you want or anything else, would that influence you? Would that bother you? Does it matter? I don't think it matters, but I understand how it affects you. Absolutely. Or would you rather be able to post on the road and use that to build up momentum and excitement? Like, oh man, he's out there on the road. Look at her doing this. And you use those pictures to promote, hey, like we're ending the tour here. I want to have a good crowd to welcome me back. Like you could use that whole tour as a commercial for your final date, which is in your hometown. But there are a couple of things to consider when you're booking your own tours. Again, one, where are you doing it? Is it in your region? Is this a national tour? Is this international? There's no wrong answer. It's what you want it to be. It's what makes sense for what you're doing. So where are you going to tour? Next, when, and not just the when of, what time of the year, But when, as in, is this a weekend only thing? Is this a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, come back Sunday? Are you going for 2 weeks straight? And there are no wrong answers. This is what makes sense for you. What are you doing? So you have, next is why. What is your reason for doing these shows? Is it exposure? Is it to test out new material? Is it to make money? Is it for promotion because you have an album coming out? Maybe you were in a group and you're a solo artist now and you need people to know that. What is your reason for touring? And then lastly, what kind of shows, and that goes for your reason, that helps you understand what kind of shows to take. If you're a new artist, you just want to get out on the road and exposure, then doing open mics and free shows, perfect. Because you're just practicing your craft and maybe you can sell merchandise and do things on the way. But if your goal is to get paid, then that helps you understand, is this something for a flat fee? Am I taking a percentage of the sales from the door? Do I sell tickets and get a couple dollars from it? Things like that. Those are the main questions if you're booking your own tour, or even just going out of town for a show. Can you meet somebody? Can you go to Decatur and do a show, meet an artist there, and have them come here to perform your next show? And you guys trade shows. Is there someone in Joliet or Chicago or St. Louis, somewhere else?
Your network is your net worth, man. You got to build with like-minded people. You got to build with people who are doing what you were trying to do.
Yeah, and a lot of people are connected or interconnected, man. I can't tell you how many people have told me that someone else told them that I was coming to St. Louis, Layla, and so shout out to everyone on the tour with us now. Layla Capri, Yusha Assad, Prime, Tay Chino, so really excited. People were hitting me up like, man, why do I have to hear through Uncanny that you're going to be in St. Louis? Like, I had that call a couple of days ago. Like, why didn't you tell me you were coming? Multiple people. So he knows people in other cities. Like, just being here, I'm sure it's very easy to set things up. He's done stuff for us in Decatur and other cities.
St. Louis. Yeah, but I like to move around. Y'all like to move around a little bit, right? Y'all don't just want to perform in Springfield, do you? Yeah, me neither. I don't like being just here. I like to breathe other air, eat other people's Chinese food. So I got to go to these places to do that.
So, but I don't want this to just be a lecture. So I'd love to open it up if anyone has any questions about anything, entertainment, film, placements.
I'm going to be Phil Donahue on the working crowd. Anybody got any, what you want to know, Sandy? What you want to know? Nothing. What y'all got? Nobody got no questions about how to monetize touring. Tell us about how you got a platinum plaque. How did you work on views? All right, hold on.
What up? This is Tay Chino. So my question to you is, who is the people that you should be looking to contact when you are setting up a tour?
That's a great question. One of my favorite tools is a website. There are two things I use. One of them is a website called Indie on the Move. IndieOnTheMove.com is awesome. It's just a database of venues. And there's also a classified section for artists who are looking to perform and they need a show. And there are also places for promoters and venues saying, hey, we need artists to perform. But that's also something that if you're going to a certain city, like I'm going to Indianapolis and I play folk music and I want a 500 capacity venue, you can, search with all of those parameters like directly. You can just all Indianapolis venues and just go through a list and look, but it has all the contact information, websites, who to talk to, all that information is there. And the second thing I use, before, when I was doing the Japanese tour, I did searches on MySpace. I just searched people for hip hop in Japan. And I went through profiles to see which people were DJs, and I just hit them up. I was dating a Japanese girl at the time, so she helped with translation. I learned Japanese, at least enough for basic conversations, and I could read and write it. So I could have very basic, but I had someone to help with other things. And that's kind of what hashtags are good for now. Like if I were coming here and I didn't know Uncanny, I might use hashtag Springfield hip hop or Illinois hip hop or Illinois music or Springfield music, Springfield DJ, things like that, Illinois DJ. And, I use those.
There's a lot of artists in the building, so I would like you to explain how they can monetize from Facebook and YouTube from sharing their content, and also like some good distribution sites to post their music to make sure that their music is getting out there.
Absolutely, great question. So Facebook and YouTube are working, and some of you may have posted videos and it got flagged for using people's music, and it might even be your own music, but they are, depending on your perspective, cracking down. But if you're an artist, you're glad that they're doing that because they're monetizing your work. Some people love it if you're going to use their song and they don't care as long as you give them credit because it introduces it to new fans. But use your music in as many videos as you can, especially YouTube. If you have it distributed through a distributor, and that could be if you're signed to a label or TuneCore, DistroKid, CD Baby, Symphonic, any of these ones that let you do it yourself, and they have the YouTube Content ID option, always do it. It's worth, DistroKid charges like $5 and they take $20, just do it. Anytime, man, there were a lot of videos that we found that were using some of Layla's songs. And the videos are still up there, but it notices and says, hey, you're using a Layla Capri song, so we're gonna run ads on this video and some of this money is gonna go to the person who's created the content. So make videos and use your own songs. If your friends are YouTubers or something, or reach out to other people, ask them to use your record because it's gonna monetize that for you.
One thing I always like to tell artists is if you see an artist submission for submit every single time, if you can afford to submit, because again, you never know what the outcome is gonna be. My homie, not a close homie, but a homie that I know from running around doing shows got a song on Madden. That's dope. Like, not everybody got a song on Madden, not everybody got a song on Live. Submit to these opportunities, make sure you show up to everything, be professional in your work. Does anybody else have any more questions for my man Essence? I still want to know how you got to work on views, man. How did that come about? Because that was a huge album.
Yeah, that was a blessing with my mentor, Kermit Henderson, from ECMD. He's over 200 gold and platinum records, over 200 number one Billboard records. So he's just been mentoring me, and I've been able to work on a lot of projects with him. I volunteered. He spoke at a conference that I was interning at, and I reached out and asked how I could help him, and he just kind of took me under his wing. And so through him, and a lot of the distribution work is how I got a lot of my credentials. But I was a co-promoter for a sold-out Pitbull concert at the Football Hall of Fame Stadium. I've done live camera work for Jay-Z, Beyonce, Big Sean, Chance the Rapper, J. Cole. There's footage of me, like, it's pretty easy to see, like, me, like, with the camera on.
You're not like no hard to hide.
Yeah. So I've had some pretty cool opportunities because I was ready, and I volunteered for so many things. I'm confident in my abilities to do everything.
And just say yes. So when somebody comes to you like, man, do you shoot music videos? Yes. Do you know how to record? Yep. You ever made a beat? Of course. Lie and then figure it out on the fly. Put yourself in position.
YouTube.
That's all we say. Go to YouTube University, put yourself in position. You can't win if you ain't playing the damn game. You gotta play the damn game to win. You can only win if you play in as many ways as possible. I appreciate you, Essence, for coming and dropping jewels on us. Again, before I close the floor, nobody got any more questions?
Anything as detailed as you want. This is a chance. No questions are stupid.
Going once?
I like the question.
Yes, ma'am.
As far as any artists that want to protect their name overall, what's your advice as far as like trademarking versus doing LLC and/or doing LLC to protect their name?
I would trademark it. The LLC is registering it as a business. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't do both. but the LLC is like the legal registration with the state that you live in that allows you to operate as a business. You don't have to have an LLC to do that. You could be a sole proprietor. So you would just file your taxes. You could get an EIN tax ID number, or if it's a sole proprietor where you're the sole proprietor, so you're the only owner, you can use your personal social security number. You don't have to have anything separate. You can if you want to, but it's not necessary. The trademark is the ownership. That's like the registration showing that you own that name and that you are the only person authorized to use that name in whatever category, whether it's a restaurant, a hair salon, whatever it is. So the LLC protects you in the instance of lawsuits and things. Your personal assets will be protected if something happens. God forbid anything happens. That your personal assets, maybe someone could sue the business, but they can't take your personal car or your house or something like that. There are other things to look forward to. Score is an amazing business. I can't think of the right word, like outlet resource. It's an amazing resource. It's free nationwide, and it's retired business people who just volunteer to mentor you in anything from,
What's the website for that one?
It's score.org, I believe. But if you just type in SCORE, they work with the Small Business Association. It's retired business people from every industry. If there's not someone in the city of Springfield, you can find people all over the country, at least, who would reach, so they're entertainment lawyers and people who ran labels, or lawyers, or, people who had clothing stores or clothing companies. They're like nonprofits, everything. And that's their whole thing, is they give you free advice. They'll help you set these things up. Free mentoring.
Free.
They have free seminars all the time, free webinars all the time. A city like this, I'm sure they have to have a chapter. There's no way they don't.
Ain't nothing cheaper than free. My daddy told me that. Ain't nothing cheaper than free. And advice and mentoring in the business sense, that's like the ultimate. If you need to know stuff that these people already know, reach is free. It's free. But we're not gonna hold you up. I need y'all to give my man Essence a hand clap, because he came and dropped some gems on us. He came and dropped some gems on us. If he didn't learn some